Hi, internet people. I wanted to make another video about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, specifically more about season 2. I mentioned this a little bit in my last video about season 1, but I wanted to dive a little bit more into season 2. I recently rewatched the Halloween episode from that season. I found it really fun, really cool to see how it was way back then, because I think in that series right now I kind of jumped around. I had started at I think I recently had finished season 6, and then I was in a little bit of season 7, but then I'm like, okay, I think I'll go back, and I did. And it's really interesting to see how the tone has changed, how just how different things would change after that. But season 2 is still really the early days. But season 2 was definitely getting better. It was still obviously there are still campy moments, of course, and I think it's not. I don't think that has to be a bad thing. I think it can be part of its charm, really, and now I think it can be part of its nostalgia and appeal too. So anyway, season 2, we start off at I think maybe the summer after the events of the last season, and Buffy comes back, and she's kind of dealing with what happened. She's kind of conflicted, or just trying to grapple with it, and she does. She kind of deals with it. She gets back on her feet, and her and Angel. I forget which episode they resume their relationship or they start dating. But I remember it's season 2, episode 3 that we first see Spike, played by James Marsters, and this is back when he was still a bad guy, so it's interesting to see where he started. And I remember before I'd watched this series, I had heard about Spike. I'd heard about what would happen later a little bit, and that I knew that he didn't. I knew that he didn't stay a villain, but it's really interesting to see where he began. So, that first episode, and I think, at this point, we didn't have future episodes yet. We didn't have the spinoff of Angel, so, but here, I think it was this episode, or really soon after Spike came to town, that, we found out he knew Angel, that they have history, that, they used to, I don't know if friends is the right word. Maybe it is. But they used to travel together and used to cause destruction together. And later, obviously, we find out it was Spike, Angel, Drusilla, and Darla. All together, just foursome of evil and killing. But this seeing Spike, I was excited because I'd heard a lot about him. So that's neat to see his beginnings and just how that evolves. So yeah, that's really cool. I think, and a continuity error I think I spotted later was that he tells Angel that Angel was the one who sired him, was the one who made him into a vampire. Obviously later we found out that it was actually Drusilla. So I realized that at that point they put that in there. Maybe they forgot it later. Maybe they just didn't realize that they had written that before, but it's okay. I'm not gonna hold it against them. I'm sure they, didn't mean to forget, or they didn't mean to make that mistake. But I find that interesting. And so yes, another episode. Halloween was great to rewatch. It's great to see the gang when they were much younger, and they had things to deal with, but didn't quite as dark as some later seasons. But seeing everyone turn into their costumes is great, and also to see at the very end, see Oz see Willow again, and just wonder who that is. I think he was starting to like her at that point. I think I've posted on Tumblr before that I wish that after they had gotten together, that he had told her those 2 times he had seen her, and kind of wondered who she was, and kind of started to like her. I think that would have been an interesting conversation for them to have, for us to see. I would have liked that. But anyway, I like that Buffy was all dressed up in old-fashioned clothes. I think maybe from the 1800s, 1700s, something like that. And so when she turns into her costume, she doesn't know who anyone is. She's totally like naive and just obviously isn't the Slayer anymore. So I wonder what Angel's reaction was to that. Seeing Buffy in a dress that would have been familiar to him back when he was a human. So interesting stuff. And obviously this time we see Giles' friend, Ethan Rayne, again. And I know this isn't the last we see of him, but it's interesting to see those two spar, kind of see them, argue, have conflict. And I think, again, we get allusions to Giles' past and how it was maybe less than stellar. I know we found out more later, but at this point, I don't think we knew much. So, again, it builds, like, suspense. It kind of builds mystery. Of course, Ethan Rayne, I don't quite know what his motivation was for turning everyone into their costumes. Obviously, he's being played as a villain, but I feel like he also is kind of a gray area later, too. So, I forget what his motivation is here. Maybe it's supposed to be ambiguous, but I just feel like, I don't know, I wish I knew a better explanation for why he was doing what he was doing, apart from he's just, a jerk and likes hurting people. But anyway, at this point, Cordelia didn't know Angel was a vampire, so when Buffy as her costume as a naive girl sees that Angel's a vampire, she's obviously freaked, and then later she's still scared of him, and she's like, Buffy's like, he's a vampire. I'm all scared and naive and weak because I don't know I'm the Slayer. Cordelia's all like, obviously doesn't realize that it's true. She's like, oh, but he's a good vampire. She's trying to like play along with Buffy. Cordelia's just like so done with all this. But I kind of like she eventually kind of integrated more into the group and, kind of had her place when she was dating Xander. Anyway, but then obviously I love her evolution later, but that's another video for another time. But yeah, so the main thing I want to talk about this video is Buffy and Angel and how I think I'd have to look up the specific dates, but I think in the mid-season finale, when they realize he might have to go, he might have to leave, and he gets delayed at one point, and I know there's a whole backstory with Miss Calendar and her family knowing what Angel is, and knowing that he has a soul, and that it was her line, her descendants who gave him that soul, and they're trying to prevent him from losing it. I get that. I totally get that now. Looking back, have a little more perspective. So I can't even be mad at Miss Calendar for wanting to separate Buffy and Angel, wanting him to not have that moment of happiness, because obviously it's a danger. And I'm curious if Angel remembered that, or if he found out the hard way, what would make him lose his soul. But yeah, anyway, him and Buffy get together and have a really, profound moment, and they stay together, they stay overnight, and I love them together. At that point, I really loved their dynamic, and I just I'm glad that they had that moment together. But it's just really, really sad that immediately after that he loses his soul and he becomes evil. He becomes Angelus. Now, on the other side, it's really cool to see David Boreanaz get the chance to be the villain, to be Angelus, to play another side to this character. It's really neat to see where that began, and also future episodes we see more of that. But see where it started is, again, it really it upped the stakes is what it did, and I'm glad the show did it, even though it was heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking to see them interact after he lost his soul and he goes back to his place and Buffy's still there, and she doesn't know that he's lost his soul at this point. She has no idea. So when he reacts the way he did, and he acts differently than Angel would, and he's kind of insults her, I just really felt for Buffy because she doesn't know what's going on here. So anyway, she she leaves, and I think watching those episodes, of course and not that I'm not sad, I see it from a little bit different perspective now, but watching them for the first or second couple of times, it makes you very, very sad. But so as the season goes on, he's the villain now. He's what they have to fight against, even though they didn't fight against him before because he had a soul, but now he doesn't, and he's an evil vampire, and she's the vampire slayer, and that just makes me sad. And one thing that made me really frustrated with Buffy's friends, at this point, Xander still liked Buffy, and I know that they become friends. I know that they develop this great friendship and partnership, and that's awesome. But at this point, I think he still had a crush on her. So Angel being evil just made his day that she's not with anyone else now, which I'm always bugged by that, because I'm like, Xander, she already turned you down that way, so please stop acting like you have a right to tell her who to date, or to. I feel like maybe he did feel bad for Buffy. I hope he did. I think he did. But yeah, later on in the season, when Angelus is teamed up with Spike and Drusilla, and Buffy has to go fight him. Has to go stop it, and I know she's strong enough. She does fight him, but when there's a chance that Willow could restore her soul, Xander doesn't tell her that she's gonna try again. Xander doesn't tell her what Willow's gonna do, and I found that an incredible disservice to Buffy, because I know that Xander's looking out for her. I know that I see that, but mixed in with that is his own desire for Angel to be dead, because he already didn't like Angel, and now that he's jealous, that's even more justified. So I think letting Buffy know that, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have helped. Maybe it would be detrimental, but maybe it would have planted a little bit more hope in her mind to stall the fight, to keep it going a little bit longer, to see if there was a chance. Because I think if you really care about Buffy's happiness, you'll tell her the truth about what was gonna happen, the possibility that he could get his soul back, and so yeah, there's a whole other rant I could do about that. But yeah, before the finale though, we have that episode where they have, it's kind of told in flashbacks too, but it's about this student and this teacher who were in love, and who, I think, because they couldn't be together, he might have killed himself, or she, and then killed her. It was really tragic thing, and it gets played out in different people now, as they're possessed by these ghosts, and they play out what happened. I think it's really interesting to see Buffy's reaction to it, and then finally see her and Angelus get possessed by these ghosts and play out what's happening. And in this case, Buffy gets possessed by the male ghost, and Angelus gets possessed by the female ghost. And it's really changing up that dynamic. And I know that Angelus is an incredibly evil, twisted character, but I think in his own way, he was still obsessed with Buffy. So in a really twisted way, he still loved her, though obviously not in a good way, but I still maintain that, because as they play out this scene with these ghosts, and they eventually, the gang solves the case, and they figure out how to get rid of those ghosts, and that ends. But then that moment when Buffy and Angelus are temporarily, when they're temporarily playing out the scene, and all that dynamic, and then they're freed for that. I don't know how long it was, a second or two, when they realize that they're okay, they're not possessed anymore, they're themselves. I just want to know what he was thinking, because I don't know, I feel like it's even more evident in that moment that he leaves. He doesn't try to kill her. Maybe I'm really interested in the psychology of that episode, and what Buffy and Angel were thinking in that moment where they were playing out that scene, but then they're freed, but then it's just themselves, and they're closer than they've been in a while, and I'm just like, I find that very, very fascinating and to think about. But anyway, back to the finale. I think if I remember right, at this point, Buffy and Spike had kind of made an agreement that he would turn on his friends because he didn't want to end the world like they did. So he would kind of, in his own weird way, help her, but he was just gonna, maybe do something to stall or do something to hinder them, and then leave Buffy to it. Which I find it interesting that though he's a villain, they still had this agreement. They were still working together even then. So yeah, just foreshadowing, anyone? But yeah, in that season 2 finale, when Buffy and Angel are finally fighting their final fight. Oh, Buffy and Angelus, excuse me. And they're going at it, and all that kind of thing. And I feel like I almost want to rewatch it again to remember the specific dialogue. But I remember I had seen this moment in GIFs on Tumblr before, when Buffy she's been disarmed from her weapon. She's on the floor. She seems powerless. And Angelus is like, no weapon, no friends. What do you have left? And as he thrusts, the weapon that he's holding towards her, she grabs it with both hands, and she says, "What she has left, and me. She has herself left," and she kicks his ass and disarms him. And I think at this point the portal to End of the World has been opened, and she has to kill him to stop it. But right before that moment, Willow's spell worked, and Angelus is restored to Angel. And for a brief, tiny moment, Buffy and Angel are happy. And he doesn't know what Angelus has done. This could be contested later, but I think at this point they made it so he couldn't remember, or he didn't remember at first what had happened. So he's back to being Angel, and he just doesn't know what's going on. And Buffy kisses him one last time, but she has to save the world. So to end the spell that's already been going to end the world, to save it, so she has to kill him, and she does. It's just a horrible, heartbreaking moment that Buffy had to kill the love of her life to save the world, because that's what she does. She saves the world a lot. And if you've watched all the seasons in season 5, you'll know what I'm referencing. But yeah, and then Buffy leaves, and I don't blame her at all. And that'll be another discussion for another day of a bit of season 3. But one thing I wished we could have seen, which I know later she tells her friends what happened, and how sad that is. I think Willow and Giles understand. I think they'd be a little more sympathetic, because they didn't hate Angel, and they feel really bad for Buffy that this happened this way. And it would have been easier if the spell hadn't worked. He'd been Angelus, he'd been evil, and then killed, because that's it would have been a little more far removed. But the fact that he had his soul again, and she still had to kill him to save the world, is just very, very bittersweet. But yeah, I wish that Xander had grown up a little, and that he had stopped being so jealous of Angel. Just had, I don't know, a little more understanding of how this affected Buffy, of how this event, that how sad it must have been for her. I feel like he never really tried to do that, and I wish they had. But overall, the season improved, and from the last season, just from the villains in the first half to Angelus being the villain for the second half, and just how it all gets tied together. And yeah, really good season. I think this season is what the first season had good moments, definitely, but season 2, I think, what kept me watching, definitely. So those are my thoughts on season 2 for the episodes that I most clearly remember. So that was fun. thank you for watching. If you did, please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this about different TV shows and characters and things that I love, and art too. I'll talk about different projects I've done. So yeah, again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.